A lot of watch collectors are guilty of focusing way too much on the specification, and not how the watch actually looks. I've for sure even been guilty of this myself in the past, and that leads to a very good watch collection, no doubt, but one that often lacks a bit of style. So I've spent some time collecting a list of watches that I think are exceptionally good looking. Yes, these are still good watches, but that's not the focus here. These watches will make you look $1,000,000 without breaking the bank. Hello there, my name is Kieran, welcome to Top Tier Ticker, I hope you're having a good day. Today's video is simple. Every single watch is affordable, every single watch is exceptionally stylish, and they're a great addition to any watch collection. We're going to cover 15 watches today, and I will leave them all linked below for your buying pleasure. If you want to see part 2, then make sure you hit the subscribe button. Let's talk tickers. Okay, so we're going to be starting off with what might just be the best looking Japanese watch, but we do have a little bit of competition for that title a little bit later in the video with a Seiko. Now, the brand I'm talking about is, of course, Kuoe. Almost every single watch these guys make is absolutely beautiful. But if I had to pick one specific watch from their catalogue, it would be this one. This is the Bronze Old Smith. It's a design based around vintage British military watches, and this watch features probably one of the best colour combinations I've ever seen on a watch. This watch features a bronze case. Now that means that this case will tarnish over time, but the way bronze ages adds a lot of character and typically makes the watch look better. Now you get two size options with the Bronze Old Smith. It comes in 35mm and 38mm. Now because this is a bronze watch with quite a neutral dial, it will eat pretty much any leather strap or NATO strap for breakfast. I get chills every single time I see this watch on my Instagram because I just think it's so good looking. Now Kuoe is quite an expensive micro brand, but I think this one, especially considering that bronze case, is actually quite a good price. It comes in at just over $500. Now we're going back to back military with this next pick, however this time we're going for a pilot's watch. I can't quite put my finger on why this watch is so good looking, but I think it's absolutely stunning. Now this comes from one of the most respected micro brands in terms of quality alone. Now don't get me wrong, you do pay for that quality here as these aren't cheap watches, but Wise always delivers a top quality product for the price you pay. Now this is a Type B Flieger, which means you get the minutes on the outer and the hours on the inner, and I would say this is a modern interpretation of a classic Flieger watch. Definitely not trying to be an IWC wannabe. Now there are a few dial options with this watch. However, I think the best one in terms of style is the burgundy red. This one features a red ring on the outer and black in the center, and there's also tons of depth amongst that dial. That red section, for example, is textured and the numerals are slightly raised above. And this watch features a sawed-off handset, which I always think looks super stylish. This case is super angular and sharp, quite boxy, but one thing Wise always delivers on is epic finishing. Super consistent with great transitions. Now the model name is a little bit weird here, it's called the Flyboy, but certainly not the worst name I've ever heard. You do get two straps with this watch, which is nice, an FKM rubber and a leather, and Wise always delivers a great unboxing experience. And price, just over $500, which in my opinion makes this one of the best looking affordable pilot's watches you'll find around. Now I can't decide whether this next watch is super stylish or a bit of an old man's watch. Now obviously I'm leaning towards the stylish part, hence its inclusion in this video, but I want to know your opinion on this watch down in the comments. But I think it's fair to say that this is the best looking watch that Seiko produces, at least in my opinion anyway. This watch is the legendary Seiko Alpinist, and I'm sure a lot of you have considered it before and might even roll your eyes at its inclusion on today's video, but I just think the combination of the dial design and colours here is just perfect. Green is a colour that a lot of watch brands attempt, but a lot of them fall short, but I think it's been absolutely nailed here. The design here in terms of those indexes and the compass bezel just works so well together, and the way the applied golden indexes pop against the green dial is just incredible. Also, I'm a big sucker when it comes to cathedral hands. I always think it adds a lot of character to a watch. Even non-watch collectors will appreciate the design of this beautiful Seiko. And because this watch is so popular, there are so many strap options for it, aftermarket bracelets, and endless inspiration in terms of straps that you can pair it with. Next up, we're going to be taking a look at a hidden gem by a British brand. Now this is sort of a futuristic field watch. It sort of feels like an an alien spaceship in a weird way, but then there's certainly a little bit of military influence in there too. It features a super angular sandblasted case, loads of different facets and angles around those lugs specifically, but one thing that has been nailed here is the use of colour. There are a few dial options with the Rocket, however for me the white and green is the gem. Now the dial design here is exceptionally minimal, almost Bauhaus, because there's not even any hour markings on this watch, they're just minutes on the chapter ring. But one thing that I have to point out is that this watch features a sandwich dial. Where indexes would usually be, there's sort of this cutout, and there's lume beneath which shines through those holes, which means the lume experience on this watch is a little bit different, but certainly fantastic. But I think what makes this watch so stylish anyway is that minty green chapter ring. Now what about if you're on a super duper tight budget? Don't worry, you can still look stylish. Now I'm not sure whether this watch is a homage, but if I had to guess, they've probably copied Breguet here. Now this watch delivers endless old money vibes, which is an entire sort of aesthetic itself. First thing to point out on this watch is that it features quite a unique case. You see the case sides feature this coin-like construction, almost like a bezel but on the case instead. And then the actual dial design is just out and out class. Roman numerals, Breguet hands and a guilloche dial. And because it's silver, this is gonna go with just about anything. And I'm talking any strap and any outfit. You'll be able to dress it up and probably dress it down quite easily too. Now this watch does feature a quartz movement, which I know might be a negative to some, but this is only a two-hander, so that second hand isn't going to be missing any of the markers. And what's the best thing about using quartz movements? The thickness, only 8mm on this watch. And considering the price point, about $60, this one proves that you don't need to spend a lot of money to be stylish. However, if that one was a little bit too dressy for you and you want something that's out and out sports, then this next one delivers that in abundance. Now this is a fairly young micro brand. They've been going for a couple of years now, but they're quickly becoming one of my favorites anyway. Now all of the designs amongst this brand are original no doubt, but feel classic. And their brand new watch, the Urban Adventure range, is the one that I'm highlighting here. You actually get 3 different options amongst this range. They have an automatic, they have a skeleton, and they have a chronograph. The automatic and the skeleton are for sure stylish, don't get me wrong, but it's actually the chronograph that I'm going to be highlighting today. This chronograph, I think, is just perfect. It has an incredible dial design in terms of nailing the symmetry and lots of detail amongst the dial. And the case of this watch, considering the price point, is very impressive. It features these side panels that have been bolted to the case, and those add a lot of detail and make this watch look way more expensive than the price. This watch has been designed for sort of getting out and about in town, looking stylish, wearing your sunglasses, so of course it fits this video perfectly. Now this watch is currently available to pre-order on Kickstarter. All 3 versions come in under £300, I believe, and the chronograph is under $250. And I like the red chronograph that much that I've backed the Kickstarter myself. Now you'll be surprised that this next watch brand is featuring on today's video, not because they make bad watches, but typically they're mega expensive. Now this comes from a Swiss luxury watch brand without the luxury tax, and that's because this is a neo vintage gem. You might be surprised to learn that you can pick up vintage Tag Heuer models for under $500. And it's not just like there's 1 or 2 watches to choose from, there's loads of choice. Now I've picked up a couple of these myself because I really enjoy them. My favourite has been the two-tone Tag Heuer 2000. In terms of style, this one just has so much of it. It's a classic diver, no doubt, but the design here, I think, just looks so cool. And don't worry, if you're not a fan of two-tone watches, there's loads of regular steel options. I've even picked up this granite dial Tag 2000 with a steel bezel. Different colours, different sizes, different movements. Neo Vintage Tag Heuer is like a rabbit hole in itself. Now, most of these are powered by quartz movements, especially the ones that are under $500, but that means these watches are extremely thin and comfortable for a 200-meter diver. They're usually under 10mm thick. And getting a big brand name like Tag Heuer on wrist for this sort of price is something that you shouldn't dismiss. Okay, this next one is probably the most stylish everyday watch that you can buy that is built like an absolute tank. Now this watch is made from stainless steel, but it features a hardness coating that basically makes this one near impossible to scratch. And even though this is sort of a dressy everyday watch, it comes with a 200-meter water resistance rating. So it's pretty much going to survive anything you can throw at it. But although the exterior is extremely tough and durable, this watch is actually exceptionally elegant. It features one of the most interesting dials that I've ever checked out in person. There's tons of facet, levels, colours and finishes all amongst the dial surface. And I think it's one of the best dials I've seen anyway on an everyday watch. And it's not often you find a watch that ticks every single box in terms of spec and looks this good. Oh, and if you want some choice when it comes to dial colour, there's plenty here, including ones that are full of energy and ones that are a bit safer. Price is a little bit more expensive, but this one is a spec monster, £649. Now, this next one isn't just one watch, rather a whole brand. And that's because this brand, well, they don't make bad looking watches. I feel comfortable recommending every single watch from this brand to you. Zelos are a household name amongst die-hard watch enthusiasts, and they've fully earned it. Every single release is dripping with style, and they have been for a long time now. Pretty much every single watch that Zelos releases, they are just exceptionally good looking. They're probably the best when it comes to using unusual shapes and silhouettes with their watches, and they always deliver interesting dials, whether it be materials like meteorite or aventurine, or doing insane 3D finishes. Now, some Zelos watches can get a little bit pricey, but most of their watches are around that $500 mark. But don't be afraid to go secondary market with Zelos. You can often find them for under $500 in great condition on places like eBay. Now, this next one is a relatively new watch that's taken the industry by storm, because it's a Genta-inspired sports watch that doesn't copy anyone, and that's a hard thing to do. Now, I think the first thing to mention here is just the beautiful textured dial. It's not too overpowering, it's just right. And I absolutely love the offset sub-seconds on this watch, something that you don't see very often on a dial. Now, the case here is quite boxy and angular, maybe a little bit brutalist, so I certainly wouldn't describe this as an elegant sports watch, but in my opinion, it still looks $1,000,000. Now, this watch is made from titanium, which means it's lightweight and therefore very comfortable, and you actually get a big choice here when it comes to movement. There is an automatic version with that off-seconds register. There's then an EcoDrive solar version, which features a central seconds, and even a chronograph version, which I also think looks super stylish. Lots of different colours to choose from amongst the whole lineup. For me, the white dial automatic is my absolute favourite from the collection. Prices do vary depending on which version you want, but generally speaking, all of them are under $500. Now, this next one looks like nothing else on today's video. That might be a bad thing to some, but to those of you who want to be a little bit different with your style, this is the one to check out. It features a TV shape case, and I think it's just beautiful. And what makes this brand special is that they use mineral and stone dials. Therefore, every dial is slightly different. Now, these are just two-handers and they don't feature any indexes, so good luck reading the time at a glance on this one, but that's purposely done to just let the dials here do all the talking. When you've got dials that are this good looking, you just want them to take center stage. You get a choice when it comes to case. They do some gold case options and some regular steel options, and I have got hands on with these on a few occasions now, and the supplied straps are excellent, super soft, and they match the aesthetic of the watch perfectly. These watches represent a time gone by, and no other watch brand are making watches like this anymore. In my opinion, it's hard not to look stylish when wearing one of these Dennisons. The only problem is they're not the best value for money. They come in at just over £500, which I'll for sure say you can definitely do better for the money. But in terms of style and how good looking the watch is, these watches just have that X factor. Now, we're going back to back here with another watch that doesn't offer the best spec for the money, but in terms of style alone, this one is near top of the list. Now, from my knowledge, this is one of the only micro brands that comes from Brazil. This watch has absolutely nailed the use of colour. It certainly has vintage chronograph vibes going on here, but there's certainly a bit of modern flair. First thing to mention, the crystal on this watch is beautiful. Now, it is only a sapphire coated K1 mineral, but it's beautifully clear, and thank God it is, because this dial needs to be seen in full glory. Now, the case of this watch is rather flat and quite expansive, but that means you notice how good the finishing is on this watch. I know I said it wasn't the best spec for the money, but the finishing here is fantastic. Excellent transitions between the brushing and the polishing, kept simple but executed very well. You also get two straps with this watch as standard. You get a rally style leather and a yellow rubber strap that matches the colours on the dial perfectly. Last summer, I couldn't take this Roue off wrist because I was enjoying it that much. And in terms of price, just over $200, so this one certainly isn't breaking the bank. Now, one question I hear floating around quite a lot is, why are Studio Underdogs so popular? And I think it's a simple answer. It's because they're stylish. On pretty much every single watch that Studio Underdog make, they've absolutely nailed the design. There's no doubt classic vibes amongst the catalogue, but with a contemporary twist. Now, the watch I'm highlighting here today is the classic, the 01 series. Instantly, asymmetrical subdials, I think these are stylish. But for me, what makes this watch so popular is that they've nailed the colours. Even on my Goofy Panda, which is probably the most boring watch they sell, I still think this one is exceptionally good looking. The 01 series features both a gradient and a textured finish amongst the dial, and on my Goofy Panda there's a little pop of green on those chronograph hands. Now my Goofy Panda specifically is a strap monster due to the neutral colour palette, and every time I put this watch on wrist, I feel really stylish. Of course, the more colourful options from Studio Underdog are the most popular, but don't feel like you have to go for one of the colourful ones if you prefer one of the boring ones like me. These come in at just over £500, which I think, style for cash, is some of the best you can get. Now this next one is an insanely beautiful watch that in my opinion just doesn't get enough love. It pays respect to the true roots of wristwatches. Instantly you might look at this watch and think, it looks a bit like a pocket watch, and that's exactly what this watch is. You see, this is a trench watch, which is from the era where pocket watches were worn on the wrist. Now the dial here is classic pocket watch. It has those extremely bold classical numerals, which gives this watch awesome legibility. And the dial material here is enamel, which is something you don't often get with a watch at this price point. Enamel dials, simply put, offer a different sort of hue than regular dials. They sort of look a little bit deeper and feel a bit more luxurious in a way. But just because this watch looks old, don't doubt its capabilities. It still has a sapphire crystal, 100 meters of water resistance, so it's going to be able to take pretty much everything you can throw at it. There's loads of different dial options in terms of color and style here. You can even get one that features a pulsometer scale. All versions come in under $400, and because this is a Vario, that means you get an excellent supplied strap with this watch. If you want to show people that you have endless confidence, then I think this is the watch to go for. This watch is for sure a conversation starter. Everybody will want to know exactly what you're wearing, exactly what watch brand it is, but don't get it twisted, this is still a super stylish watch. Now this is based on Salvador Dali's melting clock painting, hence the name of this watch being the melting watch. It's sort of a Cartier crash on a budget, and it will for sure turn heads. Now again, not the best when it comes to value for money. Over $500 for this watch, for the spec sheet on offer, is a little bit sickening, but if we're just talking about pure style and how good looking a watch is, I think this watch is beautiful. Exceptionally unusual case-shape, but with a very classical dial. Certainly an artistic wristwatch. And in terms of a dress watch with flair, I think this one is top of the list. If you enjoyed this video, I'd love for you to hit like, I'd love for you to hit the subscribe button, and I'll catch you in the next one, guys. Bye for now.